It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Hi, today on the Sunday Watts on Wealth radio show, we're talking about something that touches nearly every retiree, Social Security. Who's not affected by it, right? Specifically, the COLA, not the Diet Cola, the new cost of living adjustment that's just been announced. Hi, this is Ralph Hipp, Barry Watts' official radio and TV host. Welcome in, and filling in for Barry this week is Jeremy Zickefoose of the WealthCare Corporation team. Hi, Jeremy. Glad to spend an hour with you today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to sit down with you today, Ralph, and talk about Social Security.
All right. So, Jeremy, the good news and the bad news with me being, I said recently, I'm 71 and a half. So proud of that. 71 and a half. Good news and bad news for me and everybody on Social Security. I've been on Social Security about 3.5 years now. So we're getting an increase for 2026. But what we pay for Medicare premiums outstrips the Social Security increase by about 5 times over, doesn't it?
Oh, well, so every single year, or at least recently, they do give a cost of living adjustment. Like he mentioned, it is a COLA, is what we like to call it,
right.
On your Social Security. And they just announced the new numbers for 2026, and it will be increasing 2.8%. Well, all right, how much is that? Well, for the average person, your check on average is going to be increasing about $56 a month. Does that sound like a big impact to you, Ralph?
I was going to say, I'll take it. $56.
Well, yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a huge raise or anything, but we see that over time, especially to kind of keep up with inflation, that's really the idea of that, is to make sure that as all these different things that we're paying for, whether that be your Medicare premiums or whether that be your groceries, price for gas, property taxes, that's at least keeping up with those costs. And specifically in regards to those Medicare premiums, I know sometimes they do actually increase a lot faster than the typical kind of cost of living. For the country, we like to think about everything kind of increases about 3% per year is kind of average.
The way of the world right now.
Yeah, the Fed, they try to keep it at 2%, but they have not been doing a too good job here recently, especially with, COVID and everything. But we see that those Medicare premiums, they typically increase in the ballpark of, 4% or more per year. So your Medicare premiums typically are going to be increasing faster than what your Social Security increases. And so if you do that enough times, year after year after year, do you see how that might become a problem, Ralph?
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah,
and it's not going down. Everything goes up, but we say, what goes up must come down, but that's only in the market. But costs are going up and they're not going down, yeah.
I can't remember when they said, hey, guys, we're going to actually, the cost of everything's going down. I've never heard that happen before. Have you heard that, Ralph?
I've not. Hey, we're lowering your Medicare premium, and we're lowering your Obamacare premium, so we're not going to be hearing that. No.
Unfortunately, the only thing we are hearing that might be lowered is, if nothing is done, they might be lowering your Social Security check.
That's the wrong direction on that one. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. That's counterproductive, isn't it?
It is. And talk about 3% on another front, Jeremy. The COLA is designed to help benefits keep pace with inflation. I believe our inflation rate is still sticking around 2.5 to 3%, which is also the percentage of the COLA increase. So that's kind of an even trade, isn't it? Does that really make a big difference at all for the COLA to try to keep track with inflation?
Yeah, you're correct. The average Social Security cost of living adjustment since 2000 it's 2.6% per year. And the average inflation since the same, time period in 2000, since 2000 is 2.56%. So basically, darn near the same thing.
A wash. It's a wash.
Yeah, it's kind of a wash, but and there's arguments from both sides of, what are they really using to calculate that inflation number? Are they factoring in the costs of your housing increases and gas and groceries? Because there's different metrics out there that factor in some things and don't factor in other things. So that can be argued, but in general speak, it's kind of a wash. So it's just maintaining the same rough buying power that it was, 10, 20 years ago. So it's not necessarily a giant, big difference there.
Hey, friends, we're glad you're with us. This is Ralph Hipp with Jeremy Zickefoose of the WealthCare Corporation, the Watts on Wealth radio show. And on Sunday mornings, as you're getting ready for church, we're glad to have you along. So if you'd like to make that phone call, it is 417-200-3500 to Barry and the team. 417 around Springfield and from Joplin, our friends in Joplin listening in, 417-200-3500. And you can call and say, hey, I heard the show. I would like to talk to Jeremy about Social Security. We also had our program with Medicare Matt Dean, our great Medicare show. If you'd like to talk Medicare with Matt, call that same number. But Jeremy and I chatting about Social Security. How should we think about Social Security as part of the overall retirement plan through the WealthCare Corporation, Jeremy? How does that interlock the pieces?
Well, essentially, Social Security is most people's only source of income in retirement. And one of the things that we focus at the WealthCare Corporation is our first step in retirement confidence is, income. How much income do you have, in retirement? Is it going to be there for you? Ideally, to age 100 is what we like to look at that. But, the thing with Social Security is that, like I just mentioned, it's not guaranteed. We like to think that it is, hopefully guaranteed. And, we've been putting all this money in there. But gosh, I'm hearing all these things about, if nothing's done by 2034, the Social Security Trust Fund is going to run dry. And also, if we know that that's going to happen, if nothing's done, well, the current projections are showing that, essentially Social Security can't operate in the red. And so if it can't operate in the red, well, they can only pay out, enough benefit for the amount of Social Security taxes that are coming in. And so at that time, they're only going to be able to pay out the amount of benefits based on the amount of taxes are coming in. So they're projecting that that's going to be about 83% of benefits. So if you're only receiving 83% of what you're supposed to be getting, well, that's a 17% reduction in your current check. Now, even though that is currently, what would happen if nothing, is changed, if we don't do anything about this to help solve this problem, even though that could happen, I do think it's unlikely.
We've also had that discussion. Barry mentioned, Eric, our Congressman Eric Burleson, having a discussion about, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Jeremy. Eric proposed, why don't we let the younger people who are not in this time frame, come up with, let's do legislation to help them create their own individual retirement accounts and encourage that to wean them off of the Social Security that will not be there. And there was no response from the Republicans at all, Barry said. They weren't interested in talking about it, but they better get interested, don't you think? Let's come up with another way to do it.
Entirely. It's great how we do, at least we're able to hear these types of conversations from Eric. He lets us know, some of the things that are happening up there, but it's wild how people in Washington, D.C. apparently aren't really wanting to talk about these things. He talked about, hey, I want to propose this change to Social Security. We need to really work on fixing this problem. And crickets. No one wants to talk about it. And I'm like, this affects everybody. I don't know anyone who, there's very few people that aren't going to qualify for Social Security. Most people do. And it's not like we're, like we get the choice to put, these funds in. It is forced out of us every single month, every single check, year after year, decade after decade. And now you're telling me that I might not get that? That's not very fair. So even though technically that could happen, I don't believe that they're going to let those checks be reduced. That would be pretty much, that would be a career-ending move. No one would ever vote that person in office ever again, or any other person in politics at that time. So Ralph, I think's more likely to happen?
What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I think the government's going to do what the government does best. And they're going to say, you know what? Why don't we just print some money? Or, why don't we just raise taxes in another area? So, hey, we'll raise income taxes over here, or we'll raise sales tax over here, or property tax over here. So, hey, we didn't touch your Social Security check.
We'll put it back in there.
Check, but they get it out from all these other places.
Yeah. And RMDs and things of that nature.
Exactly. And so that's one of the things that, at our firm, if we know that, gosh, most likely, especially with the debt that we're spending, and it's increasing, and all of our interest payments on that, they just keep increasing year after year. I think we're 37, or I think we might be $38 trillion in debt now, which is insane. If that keeps happening, this is not a Republican problem. It is not a Democrat problem. This is a math problem. All the math says, well, we've got to increase income. And every other time that our country has had an issue like this, where did they get that income? They got that from you and me. They got it by raising taxes on all of us. And so what we've focused primarily at our firm is, we're very tax centric. And it's let's get ourselves into a tax-free position so that when that train comes, well, we don't have to, be as worried about it because, well, hopefully we don't owe any. We don't have those required minimum distributions. Mm-hmm. Because, even though we're talking in the broad sense here about Social Security, it is not as simple as a question as just answering, well, what do we do about Social Security, or when do I claim it, or what's the best time to do that, or how do I affect taxes on that? You can't just answer that one question, because in retirement, there's so many things that can affect just your Social Security, that one little source of income. And so that's why we believe, as retirement planners, retirement designers, that we need to take that holistic approach to retirement. And by looking at, everything in taxes, your investments, principal protection, Social Security, Medicare, long-term care expenses, all of these things matter. And you can't just fix one of those, because then the 10 other things that are going a whack and going all crazy, well, they'll just, they'll mess that thing up too. So it's a big old hairy problem. But yeah, I'm glad we addressed talking about the possible future of Social Security. I don't think it's going to go away. I really highly doubt that they would actually reduce that check. But to circle back to what we were talking about of the cost of living adjustments, that might be something that they do, of say, well, what if they stop giving cost of living adjustments? Because if we know it's slowly, every single year we're having to spend more and more from the trust fund, they might end up saying, well, we can't keep increasing this amount we're paying out because we can't even pay the amount out currently for a handful
where
of
we
years.
are now. Yeah.
So even though right now we are getting a cost of living adjustment that's pretty much keeping up with inflation, it's on par with all those different things, I'm not too certain that that's a guarantee that we should be, planning on always being there in the future.
Hey, this is our Social Security show with Jeremy Zickefoose. Our whole program is about Social Security and you. I'm Ralph Hipp along with Jeremy Z. Do they call you Jay-Z at all?
Oh, they do. Yes, our receptionist, Wendy, she always, Jay-Z, talking to you, or Zicky, all those, yeah.
All those. We are with Jay-Z, Jeremy Zickefoose of the WealthCare Corporation, while Barry is away. And thanks for joining us. More of our conversation on Social Security will continue in just a moment.
Curious about securing your financial future? Barry Watts brings expertise to your retirement plans. Arrange a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Again, it's VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Market volatility can be daunting, but having a strategy in place can provide stability amidst the uncertainty. Consult with us to learn about approaches that address market ups and downs. Call 417-200-3500 to set an appointment and secure your financial footing. Again, just call 417-200-3500.
Welcome back in. More of our Social Security program with Jeremy Zickefoose of the WealthCare Corporation. I'm Ralph Hipp, and Jeremy in for Barry this weekend on Watts on Wealth radio show. You can address your questions specifically to Jeremy about Social Security or to Medicare Matt Dean with the Medicare open enrollment time till the 7th of December. Ask for Medicare Matt Dean when you call in as well. 417-200-3500, 200-3500 to Barry's team at Springfield's WealthCare Corporation. Getting back to it, Jeremy, many retirees, they do depend heavily on Social Security. There are some that are wealthy that probably they go, well, whatever happens, happens. I'm okay either way. It doesn't matter to me. But the retirees who depend on it heavily with that three-legged stool, they have hopefully a pension from their company, hopefully have some put away in savings or individual retirement accounts and Social Security. So with all that sitting on the stool, they're aiming to maximize their returns from this very important income source. It may only be around for 8 more years, but navigating how complex this system is very challenging. You know how that is, and being an expert on it, leaving many to question the best way to optimize the benefits they'll get. So why is Social Security and the system that it comes from so complicated, so complex?
Well, Ralph, gosh, that is a loaded question.
It's
But
a
let's see here.
complicated question.
Yeah. Well, I think first of why it's so complex and so many people just don't know what to do is because there's a lot of options. There's so many different ways that you can go about claiming your benefit. There's multiple different ages that you can claim. You might be able to claim off of a spouse. You could even possibly claim on an ex-spouse, or if you have a minor child. So there's so many different possibilities out there. Just essentially people, they get overwhelmed. There's so many options. When do I claim? I don't know. But what I help do is I try to distill down all of that information, and I say, well, let's look at the numbers. Let's run a income plan for retirement. Let's look at a written and optimized income plan of all of the different assets that you currently have built up for retirement savings. Let's look at your sitting on the porch number that Barry's mentioned many times on the show. How much do you need every single month to retire that pays all the expenses that you need during your for the necessities, but also to do all the things you want to do, whether that travel or, go to Disneyland or get that home repair that you finally wanted, a new sunroom, whatever that might be. How much would it cost to just sit on the porch every single month? Factor in your Social Security income, maybe a pension income if you have that, and then factor in inflation and taxes and cost of living adjustments and see, well, if we were to claim at different times, how does that affect us? How does that affect our income? How does it affect our taxes? How does it affect the amount that we're having to withdraw from our investment accounts? Because there's a lot of, different options. Essentially, when you go to retire, there's 2 big paths that you kind of got to choose from initially. You say, all right, well, I can start pulling all my income from my investment accounts, my 401ks, my IRAs, 403bs, whatever you might have, and use that for my income and not claim Social Security yet so that can grow. Because every year you wait, it grows about 8%. Or you can say, well, maybe I might claim my Social Security benefit now so that then I don't have to be pulling out as much money from my investment accounts so that can grow. And so we want to look at all these different options of, well, what makes sense for your specific situation? Because, Ralph, I see these articles or people ask me questions about this all the time. When am I supposed to claim? My great aunt Susan, she told me that I need a claim at 62 immediately, and I read this article and it said the same thing. There is no one right answer. There's no cookie cutter, this size fits all for Social Security. Because I have met multiple people where it makes sense for them to claim at 62. But when you claim at 62, you get a reduction for doing that. But they didn't have the assets to supplement their income if they were to wait longer. So it actually made sense for them to take that now. But
Yeah.
I've also seen people where it makes sense for them to wait all the way to age 70. So there is no one right answer. And I've seen every possible thing in between of when you sit down with your financial advisor, or if you're trying to do this yourself, you want to be looking at all of these different factors because that's going to determine when you want to claim. How much assets do you have? What is your income goals? How will claiming your benefit affect not only you during retirement, but your spouse? Because when one of you passes away, well, you keep the higher of the 2 checks, and a lot of things change during that time. So there's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of different caveats, and so I try to help make it a simple process where I say, all right, well, I've done all those calculations because I do that day in and day out. So we can see with confidence when is actually the optimal time to claim that benefit. So I would heavily encourage whoever it is that you talk with about finances. It doesn't have to be us, but it should be somebody that they're able to do these types of calculations and show you what your written income plan looks like every month, year by year, and with that optimized Social Security claim strategy so that you get the biggest benefit possible and you also keep as much as possible in your pocket. You're not having to shell it all back out to taxes. So, yeah.
If Jeremy is the person you'd like to talk to about the strategy of it all, once again, that number 417-200-3500, 200-3500 to Jeremy Zickefoose at the WealthCare Corporation. It's fairly easy to sign up, and it is like a marriage when you do agree to the terms, and it's till death do us part. It's all the way to the end there. There's a lot of strategy involved, Jeremy. And can you explain any more why delaying the start of Social Security could be recommended or could be beneficial?
Well, by delaying, you are getting the maximum benefit. So essentially, the earliest you can claim is age 62, and that is your minimum monthly benefit. When you claim that at 62, you're getting a 30% reduction from essentially the amount that you're fully owed. You've been putting money in year after year, and if you claim early, well, you're going to get a reduction for doing it. But the pro is that, well, you start getting that benefit earlier. Now, most people, their full retirement age is 67. It does change based on when you were born, but for most people in this conversation, we're just going to say it's 67. And that is where you get essentially what I like to call just 100% of your benefit. That is exactly what you're owed based on the amount that you've been paying in. And so the nice thing about that is, well, hey, you're not getting a reduction for claiming at that time, but you had to wait a handful of years. You had to wait 5 years before you started claiming that benefit. Alternatively, you can claim as late as age 70. Technically, you can go further than that, but age 70 is your maximum monthly benefit. So every year that you wait to claim during that time is an 8% increase in your benefit. So by waiting past your full retirement age, you can get a 24% increase from that amount because you waited until age 70. So the pro is that, hey, now you're getting this really, really big check. So maybe you don't need to dip into your retirement savings that much, or maybe you don't need to dip into them at all. And they just get to grow and compound, which isn't that a nice thing?
Oh, yeah, very nice.
Yeah. But the downside is, well, you had to wait 8 years to claim that benefit. All those years that you were waiting, where were you getting your income? Well, you had to either be working or you had to be pulling that from your investments, or maybe you had a pension or something like that. So there's pros and cons to all these different areas. And I see people where it makes sense for them to claim at 62 or 70 or 66 in 10 months, or I see anything in between. So there's pros and cons to waiting. There's pros and cons to claiming early. And at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you're doing it right. Because, Ralph, actually, most people don't actually claim their benefit at the optimal time. Do you want to take a guess on how many people, as a percentage, actually get it right?
The percentage of how many get it right? Well, I was thinking 50%, but it's probably lower than half. Fewer than half?
Ralph, it is 4%.
Oh my gosh.
4% of
only
people.
4% get it right.
4% of people actually claim their Social Security at the optimal time that not only maximizes the benefit for them during their lifetime, but also that maximizes the benefit for their spouse when one of them were to pass away. Because like I mentioned, there's so many factors. Everyone's situation is so different. And so whenever you take some kind of blanket answer of, claim at full retirement age, that might apply to only a couple of people that's actually the best time. Because I don't know how much assets you have saved up. And if you blow through all of your money waiting to age 70 to claim your benefit, do you think that was really the right path?
That was
Probably
not.
No. So, you want to make sure that it is right. And so that means if only 4% of people get it right, 96% of people are leaving money on the table.
Wow.
They're not getting a big enough check as they should be, or they spent down their accounts too much when they shouldn't have, or maybe when they claimed their benefit, they hadn't fixed their tax problem, so they're having to pay an exorbitant, unnecessary taxes on their Social Security, so they're not actually able to keep what they're bringing in. Because, it's not about what you make that really matters. It's about what you keep that matters. And so those are really some of the big problems that I see is just people, one, not claiming at the right time that makes sense for them to increase their income the most over their lifetime, but also the taxes. Taxes are so important. And we want to make sure that we're not having to pay taxes on, on your Social Security benefit. Because, gosh, you've been waiting years, decades to finally get this benefit. Do you really want to give some of it back to Washington? I'd like to help you not do that. If we
Right. So, Jeremy, let me ask, can you specifically target the optimal time, or is it kind of like a range, a wiggling range to be accurate on when to take our benefits? How much can a guy like you help us on that, finding that sweet spot?
Well, with anything, especially when we're planning out for, multiple years or decades, it's kind of a fool's errand. But essentially, the best thing that I can possibly do is use very conservative estimates and get in a good ballpark range of this makes the most sense. At least we can narrow it down to, this year or, this time frame. Because at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know how they're going to change the cost of living adjustment for Social Security. I don't know if it's going to be there in 10 years. It's probably not. It may or may not be there for me. Who knows? So all I can do is, based on the current data that we have, make some conservative assumptions and say, well, if these keep happening year after year after year the way they have been, well, then this would be the best path forward. Now, all we can do going forward is just, make minor adjustments to get it nudged in the right direction. But I see the biggest thing that affects most people with Social Security. If you can help knock out the taxation on your Social Security benefit,
right,
that will immensely help everyone's situation. So really, that is a huge thing that even if, we help optimize your Social Security benefit right now, and then in 8 years, a lot of things massively change. Well, there was no way for us to possibly know that, but at least we can know for certainty if we were able to help out, knock out the taxes. Well, if in 8 years they raise the taxes to help pay for all the Social Security benefit that needs to be paid out, well, wouldn't it be nice to know that, well, you don't owe any?
There you
go.
So,
it's not a perfect system, don't get me wrong, but at least it's better than just blindly throwing a dart at a board and hoping.
It is. It is. Hey, we'll be back with more of our Social Security program. We're going to take a break for the news here with Jeremy Zickefoose of the WealthCare Corporation. I'm Ralph Hipp. You're listening to What's on Wealth, and we'll be right back.
Unsure of how market volatility might impact your investments? Speak with Barry Watts, who can offer strategies tailored to withstand market fluctuations. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry Watts today. Again, text VISIT to 417-200-3500. Prepare for retirement with key insights from Barry Watts' WealthCare Kit. Get your essential guide by texting KIT to 417-200-3500 and start planning today. That's 417-200-3500, KIT.
Time now for half number 2 of the What's on Wealth radio program. Hey, by the way, hope you caught Barry and me on TV. We're on all the Springfield channels, mostly on Sunday morning. So to watch Barry and me on TV and listen to our radio show and get Barry's book, What's on Wealth, boy, you'll really be well-versed on a lot of things going on right now and some great concepts of retirement planning. Jeremy and I, we have our hour together talking about Social Security with you. I know a lot of you have your own questions of that, and I have more questions for you, Jeremy. So we've learned the benefits deducted because of our earnings test. It's made up for more after reaching full retirement age. So can you go over some of the tax implications of continuing to work while on Social Security? How is Social Security taxed, and if we're still working as well?
Oh, that's some great questions. Let's first talk about the taxation of Social Security.
Let's start with that one. Yeah.
Whenever they look at that, the big thing that they're using there to figure out if you're going to be paying taxes on Social Security is something called your provisional income. And what your provisional income is that's the sum of all of your different income, whether it be from work, IRA distributions, it could be taxes from a pension, any of those taxable income streams, plus half of your Social Security check, which I always found funny that they're gonna factor in half of your Social Security check to see if your Social Security is taxable. That's kind of always a funny thing there. But once you add up the sum of all your different streams of income there that are taxable, plus half your Social Security check, that will then be your provisional income. And then they put you into 3 tax brackets. So there's a 0% bracket, which is where we want to be. There's a 50% bracket, and there's an 85% bracket. Now, just want to make sure, 85, when I say 50% or 80%, I'm not saying that your Social Security is taxed at 85%.
Or it's sort of, that is what is eligible to be taxed, I say.
Correct. Yeah, so it's saying that 85% of your check would be subject to taxation at whatever your current tax rate is. And so the threshold for that, for a married couples, that top threshold is if your provisional income is over $44,000, then you are in that top 85%, up to 85% of your Social Security check can be taxable at whatever tax rate you are in. And so if you're in the 22% tax bracket, well, then you'd have to pay 22% taxes on that 85% of your Social Security check. And if you're a single filer, that top of that bracket there is $34,000. And so, goodness, that kind of seems low, doesn't it?
I know. That is on the low side, yeah.
Yeah, well, what's kind of interesting? They haven't adjusted those provisional income limits since 84.
During the President Reagan years. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure things have changed a lot since 1984.
They have.
$44,000 went a lot further in 1984 than it does today, doesn't it?
Sure does.
So if we don't change the brackets, if that limit doesn't change, but over time, inflation and all of our incomes, everything's increasing. Well, we used to not have that many people that were going to be in that, 85% of your check is taxable. But now, almost everybody, your taxes check, your check is taxable at some level, whether it be 50% of it's taxable or 85% of it's taxable. And that's just because, all of our incomes and everything that, we do, all our basic expenses, everything's increased, but the bracket has stayed the same. So that kind of stinks. And so we want to make sure that, how do we limit our taxable income in retirement? And one of the big ways we see that can be looking at, how are you getting your investment income? Because I see a lot of these people, gosh, you're coming in and you've been told you've put all your money in the 401k plan, your IRA plan. Well, that's tax-deferred money. You bought the thing that said, hey, I get the deduction now, but later down the road when I need it for retirement and I pull these funds out, guess what? You have to pay taxes at those ordinary income tax rates. And so now you're in retirement, and if you need those funds, because, Social Security, it's not supposed to be, paying for your full lifestyle. That's not what it was designed to be. But, so most people, they're having to pull out more money from their different investments to help supplement their lifestyle.
Since it is kind of a safety net, it's been a safety net more than anything from the FDR days, just something to hold us up. Yeah.
Correct. It was designed essentially just to help with seniors' poverty rates because we had a big problem of that back in the 30s and 40s. And so it was designed, it was called then and still is today, it's old age insurance. That's what it is. It's not supposed to be a government pension that maintains your style of living like you were working. It's just supposed to be a supplemental type income that helps, keep food in your belly and a roof over your head. So it's there. It's really, like you mentioned, it's a security blanket. It's it's your Social Security blanket is what it is.
There you go.
To help, bring in some different incomes. But if you have all this taxable income outside of it, guess what? That's going to cause your Social Security to be taxable. And so your blanket's getting, taken away from you a bit there. So what we like to do, at least at our firm, is we help people maybe through some different tax strategies, strategic Roth integrations of how can we maybe move those IRA dollars that are tax deferred into something like a tax-free account, a Roth IRA, because all the funds that are in these Roth type accounts, well, not only do they get the advantage of growing and compounding tax-free, but when you pull the funds out of those Roth IRAs, well, like I mentioned, it's tax-free, but it doesn't get counted into your provisional income. So it's not going to cause your Social Security to be taxable. And so if you're in retirement and, you're needing $10,000, let's just say a big number here, $10,000 a month to live, and $4,000 is coming in from Social Security, well, the other $6,000 you're having to pull from your investments. If you're pulling $6,000 a month out of your IRA, well, that's a taxable event of $6,000 every single month. But if it's coming out of your Roth IRA, it's completely tax-free.
Then
so you can get to a point where many of our clients, they don't pay any taxes on their Social Security benefit. And that's, I think, one of the best things you can do, because our thought of what, they're going to do in the future to help fix not only the country's debt problem, but also the Social Security problem of not having enough funds to pay it out, well, they're going to have to raise taxes. And so let's get ourselves out of the way of this big tax train that's barreling down towards us, so that later down the road, if they raise those taxes like we think they might, well, we don't have to worry, because guess what? We don't owe any.
There you go.
Yeah. And now let's circle to, I guess, was the second part of your question there, Ralph.
Yeah. Part B of the question was, there are people, Jeremy, of course, as you know, in their 60s and 70s, they continue to work and are claiming Social Security.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to be wary of, if we make too much income, it might kick us into a higher tax bracket. So part B of my question was the tax implications of continuing to work and claiming benefits.
Yeah, that's one of those things that people just don't know about. And you can accidentally end up claiming your benefit early, getting that permanent reduction that sticks with you for the rest of your life, and then have to give it all back at the end of the year because you worked. That's definitely not an optimal claim strategy. And unfortunately, I've seen people do that before. So the way it works, essentially, the government, they're saying, well, when you claim Social Security, that's for when you're retired. And so if you're working on top of that, they say, whoa, 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 why are you taking money out of the pool? You're still earning and you're working and earning money. So they do have limits for that. It's called the annual earnings test. And if in this example, we're going to keep using the full retirement age of 67. And so if you're under the age of 67 and you're claiming your Social Security benefit, there's a limit to the amount that you can earn from a job. So that's a W-2 or a 1099
All right.
in a year before they start reducing your Social Security benefit. And that limit is $23,400 this year. And so if you earn more than that $23,000, well, guess what? For every $2 you earn over that limit, they're going to reduce your Social Security check by $1. So that's a 50% reduction. So if you go in and go ahead and earn $43,000 in a year, so you earned $20,000 over the limit. So that means you're going to get a $10,000 reduction on your benefit. Holy cow. That's pretty bad, isn't it?
Would not like to have that happen.
No, I don't want to get to the end of the year just for them to say, hey, you owe us that $10,000 we paid you throughout the year. That would not be a good time. So we want to make sure that if you are going to be working while claiming your benefit, one, is that in your best interest? Is that an optimal time to claim? Do you actually need to be doing that? Because by claiming early, like we mentioned, not only are you locking yourself into a potential penalty where, if you're earning more than that, you could be just paying it right back to the government. So you're not even getting to keep some of it, but
Right.
also you're getting that permanent reduction of claiming early before your full retirement age. Now, there is a different threshold for when you are actually in the year of your full retirement age. So if you are 67 during that year, that max threshold, it goes up to, it's about $65,000. Not quite. I think it might be 62. It's right in that ballpark. But where you can earn that much in a year, and then every bit you go above that, well, for every $3 you go above that, they reduce your check by $1. So then it's only a 33% reduction, but you have a lot bigger amount there that you can earn in that year before you start seeing that type of reduction. But then every year after that, so 68 going forward, you can earn as much as you want from a job, a W-2 or a 1099, and you are not then subject to that annual earnings test. And so you won't receive a reduction for having earned income while you're claiming your benefit.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy can help you manage your tax obligation on all this. And I got on Social Security and when I was 68 and retired, so it's worked out pretty well for me. And we hope it works out well for you. So get with Jeremy Zickefoose of the WealthCare Corporation here in Springfield at 417-200-3500. Well, what is on your mind? We're going to turn over the fourth part of our show to your listener questions. These are great questions every week. And most of the time, Barry and you and Matt and I answer listener questions. So we'll get to that on the Watts on Wealth show right after we let you hear this.
Explore how Barry Watts can support your financial aspirations. Set a consultation by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Discover the possibilities at 417-200-3500 with a simple VISIT text.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
For a more confident retirement journey, get Barry Watts' WealthCare Kit. Discover strategies addressing life's biggest retirement obstacles. Request yours by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Again, that's KIT to 417-200-3500.
Well, I gave it a big build-up, didn't I, Jeremy? The final part of our show, your listener questions, and Barry especially loves to answer questions from you. What are these real-life situations? So here's our first question, and this person writes in, hey, Jeremy, so they're writing to you. That's cool. Jeremy Zickefoose, you can go right to Jeremy when you call. Hey, Jeremy, I've heard that even though I did not qualify for Social Security, I could possibly claim off my husband. Is that true?
Oh, that's a real good question.
Claim off your husband's benefits.
Yeah. So that's what some people don't know. That's a good question. Where you can, if you don't qualify for your own benefit, if you have a spouse that does qualify for their own benefit, you can then claim off of that spouse. So that is called a spousal benefit.
Okay.
And so one, you want to make sure that if your spouse does qualify for Social Security, then that means you can qualify as well. But then a lot of times, some people, they think, oh, well, gosh, I don't want to take my benefit from my husband. If I'm getting some of his benefit, then aren't we getting the same thing? No, it's a separate benefit. So if your husband makes $1,500, typically the spousal benefit is about 50% of the spouse that qualifies their benefit. So if your husband's making, $1,500 from his benefit, then your spousal benefit might be somewhere in the ballpark of $750 every single month. And so then you're both getting that check. You're not taking anything from his. And so you can both receive that check, and you want to make sure that you're claiming that benefit at the best time. And what I mean by that is when I see these types of situations where one spouse qualifies and the other doesn't, it brings into some extra things that you want to calculate into the whole life plan. because when one spouse passes away, you get to keep the higher of the two checks. And so if one spouse doesn't have a check at all, then we know which check is going to be kept. And so we really want to make sure that we're doing the math and having the maximum benefit possible for that spouse, or for your husband in this case, because not only is that benefit going to affect him for his whole life, but I mean, statistically, women outlive men. And so statistically, that benefit, that decision on when he claims is not only going to affect him for his whole life, but that's going to affect his wife for her whole life. And so we want to make sure that that is the largest benefit possible while you're both living and, when one spouse does pass away.
Right. Okay.
And then one other thing, Ralph, I called you Barry. I'm used to talking with Barry on the show here. It's odd that
he'll be back soon. He'll be back soon.
Yeah, he will.
We'll all be chatting.
But Ralph, one thing I will just mention, I've heard many people ask me this before as well, where they will say, well, gosh, I have an ex-spouse. Can I claim off of my ex-husband? I probably can't do that. You actually can. Spousal benefit you can qualify and claim off of an ex-spouse. Now, there are some caveats and rules that you've had to have followed. You had to have been married for 10 years at least and not be remarried before the age of 60. And there's some other odd, things like that. But if you were married to someone who had a very good benefit, and even if you had your own benefit, but it was quite low, well, even though you might be divorced, you can still claim off of your ex-spouse. It doesn't affect their benefit, like I mentioned before. And so you're both receiving some larger checks so that you can have the income that you need in retirement.
All right. Back to our next listener question. And Jeremy, you'd mentioned earlier, right at the start of our program, with the COLA, our checks ought to be going up around $55 to $60 higher for 2026. So this person's writing, to Barry and the team, when it comes to Social Security, I know my monthly check increases every year. I wait to take it, but how long can you wait? Also, will it automatically turn on when I get to the maximum age?
Oh, man.
Turn it on, whoever you are.
If it just turn on, no.
Hope so.
Let me address the first part. No, it won't. But let me address that first part. So he asked, will the monthly check increase if he keeps on, how long can you wait?
How long can you wait? Yeah.
The maximum benefit is at age 70. So there's no benefit to waiting longer than 70. You're not going to get a higher benefit by waiting till 72 or 73. I've heard that, I don't know why, from some people before, where they think, I'll wait till 72 because that's when the maximum is. No. The maximum benefit is age 70. And so if you're going to wait, that is the latest then you want to be claiming. And I had a client in a couple weeks ago, and he is a very nice gentleman. He is 71, and he has not claimed his Social Security benefit yet. Ouch. He's not receiving any kind of increase for doing so, for waiting longer. And so I was like, hey.
Because it's plateaued out.
It's plateaued out. That's the max you're going to get. So it's just going to stay at that level. And so every month he waits, he's just losing that much money from Social Security. And he had a decent check too. And so he's losing thousands of dollars a month every month he waits because he's not going to receive an increase for waiting. And so I was, hey, buddy, okay, you need to claim your benefit because you're 71, you haven't claimed. Go ahead and get that claimed because, my goodness, you're not getting any type of benefit for waiting any longer at that point. And because, like the second part of that question said, will it automatically turn on? No, it will not. There's no government system set up to say, if you get to age 70 and you haven't claimed, well, that's your maximum benefit. It's just going to turn on. That's not the case. You are in charge of when your benefit is claimed. You're the one who files that. So if you don't turn it on, it just doesn't get turned on. So hypothetically, if that gentleman, if I wouldn't have told him that, and he would have kept on living his life the way he's living, and he got to 80 and he had never claimed his benefit, well, he just lost 10 years of Social Security income for no reason. Yeah. And if he would have then passed away, well, guess what? He never received Social Security because it doesn't ever turn on unless you turn it on. So, 70 is that maximum, and there's no benefit for waiting further than that.
We've talked about working while you claim your Social Security benefit, And this person also adds to their question, I'm 63 and I'm currently working part-time, but I'm considering claiming my benefit, so I'll have some extra income. Go over anything else you'd like to mention about claiming benefits and working, and what the annual earnings test is. Did we cover everything on that? Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, we did. So like I mentioned before, if you're earning over that $23,000 a year right now, every $2 you go over that, you're getting $1 reduction. So, this is something I see often. And actually, it was maybe about 3 months ago. I had a lady in the office, and she was in the same boat where she was contemplating, hey, should I claim my benefit while working? I'm working some part-time job, but I kind of want to claim my benefit to, give me that security, that social security blanket. And I'll also add, this person is only 63. So correct. Yeah,
really on the early phase
So,
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. So first, I would recommend, make sure that is the optimal time. Get with someone who can run those numbers to make sure they've done the math, that is mathematically the best thing for you to do. But at least in the client that I was helping out with, the lady I was helping out with, what we were able to do is she wanted to keep working, but she also wanted to claim her benefit. And it did make sense for her to claim her benefit at the time, just because of the amount of assets that she had. And when we ran the numbers, it did make sense for her to claim. And so what we actually did was we wanted to make sure that she didn't go over that limit, that $23,000 threshold. And so we simply just kind of backed our way into that number and said, all right, well, how much are you making an hour? Okay, if you're making this much an hour, how many hours can you work in a year before you hit that threshold? And what we were able to actually do is she was able to not only be able to cut down the amount of hours that she was working, so she was working less hours, but because she was able to then claim her Social Security benefit and keep it all because she wasn't getting a reduction for going over that annual earnings test, what she was able to accomplish was she was able to earn more and work less. That's pretty great. That's exactly what we want to help do. And so, that's just, again, one of the benefits of running your numbers, making sure you're sitting down with someone who can see, all right, with your written income plan and all of the different factors of the assets you have, taxes, cost of living adjustments, and if you are wanting to work a full-time or part-time job, does that work in the long term with your claiming strategy for your Social Security? And in her instance, it really did. And it allowed her to not only earn more and work less, so she was able to do the things that she wanted to in retirement.
Oh, great.
Be more with the grandkids, go travel more, because, hey, she had extra money and more time to do it. That's exactly what I want to help do. And so if any of that, appeals to you and you think, gosh, I want to make sure we're doing that, because I see a lot of people who are working and claiming their Social Security already, and they don't realize that they're going to have to be giving some of that back. Make sure you're sitting down with someone to make sure that permanent decision is the right decision for you, so you can be one of those 4%ers that actually does it right.
Exactly. Jeremy, thank you. What great questions. And Jeremy, thanks for a great hour about Social Security. And we've learned a lot. I appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, thank you so much for this time. I'm glad to be here and able to have my own little show for the day. And
you do.
It'll be good to have Barry back at some point.
Well, today was the Jay-Z, the Jeremy Zickefoose show. And You can call and ask for Barry, Matt Dean, or Jeremy Zickefoose by name by calling 417-200-3500. My name is Ralph Hipp, by the way, the former news anchorman for KSPR News Team 33, and loving being on the radio with the WealthCare Corporation team. Hope you'll join us again next Sunday, and that's it for What's on Wealth.
Thank you for stopping by What's on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for What's on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.